And here are some examples of what online stories look like. So, the first story I wanted to show you is an example of how a newspaper story also gets used online, and it's what I mentioned before about getting the two bites of the cherry when it comes to coverage. So, I didn't have to do anything extra when pitching this story, but essentially it's a case study of a patient who lived with eye floaters, which deteriorates your field of vision essentially. And the surgeon was my client, and he had this amazing procedure. She had a hugely heartwarming human interest story, and the story was strong enough to get featured in a full page spread in the Daily Mail. Now, the beauty of this is I pitched to one journalist at the Daily Mail, the story made the news, and they also used it online. So, this is an example, again, as I mentioned, of how you don't necessarily need to pitch a particular online specific story to the local and national media, because more often than not, they will do that for you, and their editor or sub-editor will then transfer it online. So this is a piece which is specifically an online publication. They took a standard press release, which actually we'd aimed at online, we'd aimed at some papers. So again, there didn't really need to be any extra effort, but it goes to show you how one piece again can have more legs and go into different places. And this was off the back of a survey we did, where we realised that this was for my aviation client, and we realised that there was a pilot shortage and that airlines needed to move away from traditional methods of recruitment to tackle this shortage. So this appeared in HR Review, and again it's a great example of the fact that a story can be consumer, but actually this is a trade publication. HR Review is aimed at HR professionals and those with an interest in the HR industry. The publication has 45,000 subscribers and many more readers online, so it was a really great coup. And it goes to show how it's totally worth looking at what online outlets there are for your business, and also not adopting the tunnel vision and just looking at the trade in your sector, because the example there is they're an aviation industry provider. However, their story, because they're also in recruitment, works for HR, it works for business, so it has many more areas where one story can be used. Okay, so this is actually the example of where guest blogging is really, really useful. So I mentioned in my previous slide about how this can get confused with content marketing, but don't worry yourself with the terminology, because essentially it is great PR to get yourself a piece on someone else's blog, because it just helps with your own reputation. They often link back. It helps with SEO, which I'm going to go on to, and actually all of these things touch upon. And it's a great way, again, if you don't have perhaps a news story, but you want to offer some exclusive advice and you've got something in your area. So if you're a doggy trainer, for example, the top five ways to get your dog to sit, and the top 5 ways to get your dog to respond to your gestures, to your yeses and your nos, and to understand instruction. Again, there's publications out there that they actually need your content there. They have a hard job, to be honest, in the sense that they have a website and they need to constantly populate it with stories to make it fresh, to make it relevant. And quite often, if it's a blog, there's just one writer. So in fact, they rely upon guest blogs, and that's something you can use to your advantage to offer them something that is brilliant and relevant to them, and it works really well for your credibility too. I actually pitched this for my own business. It was about finding stories in your business, which is very relevant to this masterclass, and of course it's something I've been championing for small businesses all along. Now, Business Advice is an online website aimed at small businesses. It's primarily UK based, but of course, being the World Wide Web, it can be read anywhere. But it's really good to seek out the kind of publications, and there'll be plenty, that tailor to the audience that you're trying to connect with, and seeing if you can offer them anything of value. Because I do believe that if you can get into these with advice articles, with Q&As, that kind of thing, they're all the more grateful. It really is a win-win situation. And like I say, with the explosion of online publications out there, I think it's great for small businesses because you essentially have more opportunities than you had in the past when you were reliant on just your local paper or just a magazine. The opportunities really are endless. And finally, as an example of online stories, again, this is a business publication and it's Real Business, which is the UK's, I think, best read SME website. And if you see, they've got a specific section that is titled Advice and Guides. So straight off the bat, you see that they've got this section. So often publications do have such a thing where it's an advice section and they invite contributors. It's absolutely key to check in with them whether they invite editorial externally, because sometimes, just sometimes, it's worth bearing in mind, some publications have a set of already agreed writers, or some publications, they'll take your advice but it's paid for to have a place in the publication. More often than not, in my experience, these kind of publications which are reliant on lots of articles, a churn of information coming in and real rich quality content on their website, and they want to be the go-to for business advice, they want to be the go-to for doggy training, they want to be the go-to for baking, they rely on external contributions. So again, it's a great opportunity. And with the beauty of Real Business as a website, they do link back. So at the end, don't think that this story will be just taken by the journalist and you won't be mentioned. It's very clear who it's written by, and they'll do a link back as well. So it's really important to give them a link to your website and any other relevant information, for example, a small bio, along with the advice piece, because quite often they'll use it. So it's great because you not only have the authority and credibility, you can share the article on your LinkedIn or your however you choose to promote your business, and also you get that link back, which over time should generate in people visiting your website, clicking on your services and products, and hopefully influencing your bottom line. So online works really well for small businesses.